Today, the Art of Culinary Spaces takes you to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Meals on Wheels of Metro Tulsa has been transformed into a show-stopping facility that marries stunning architectural design with a highly efficient, high-volume production kitchen. Eli Huff of SFG Consulting brings his unique blend of expertise to this remarkable project. Join us as we explore how Huff and his team crafted a space that not only increases Meals on Wheels' capacity to serve the community, but also prioritizes employee wellness and operational flow. Welcome, Eli Huff, to the Art of Culinary Spaces. Hi, on today's episode, we're here to talk to Eli about Meals on Wheels of Metro Tulsa. And I know this is a really special episode for Eli. He put a lot of work into this. So, Eli, to get us started, you've got, as a consultant, a unique combination of skills. You've been owner representative, construction project manager, professional chef in your background, former K-12 food service operator, and somehow with all of that diverse background for you, this all came into play for this project on the Meals on Wheels. So tell us a little bit about how that diverse background prepared you essentially for this project itself.
Yeah, I mean, great question. I'd have to kind of put myself back about 14 years. When I closed my restaurant in 2010, I started doing little consulting around town and restaurants. And then actually a family member had put me in touch with Union Public Schools, and they needed a chef to come consult on a bunch of their new regulations. The Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act had just started launching in 2011, 2012. They were doing a full $30 million rebuild of the high school. Wow. And so we came on board. First, I was hesitant because as 17 years in the kitchens all over the country as a chef, I thought, why would I do schoolwork? But, I listened to that inner voice, and I went for one meeting and fell in love with the project immediately. And they signed us for a 3-year contract, or signed me. At the time, I hadn't even started SFG. And I got to work with a lot of different backgrounds. So, these school districts, people don't realize, bigger school districts have internal construction management. They have facilities managers. They have obviously the child nutrition staff. And then they have other different operators. We were brought in as a third party pretty much to consult with all of those entities. Really opened my eyes up to how schools are built, designed, then built, and then operated. That contract ended up being a 3-year contract total. And I actually took the job with the district as the culinary operations coordinator. So basically involved with directing all operations for all the cafeterias on 17 school sites. But that also entailed new design and new construction of new cafeterias. So while we were working on about 300 new recipes with the new Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act for the staff to serve, procuring food, finding better product to serve, cheese, meats, proteins, all stuff like that. We were also having meetings once a week with architects. And that's when I first heard about a food service consultant. And so really that kind of turned my eyes on, or opened my eyes up to the world of food service consulting. It blew my mind. I didn't even know these guys existed. 14 years later, that's who I am and what I do.
You mentioned a couple things in there that you talked about, and you, with this project, was a long labor of love, essentially, a long project. And you faced a lot of challenges with this, actually. I mean, obviously COVID-19, but then real estate issues, as you mentioned. You actually had design and setback change with multiple architects. How, as the consultant, did you navigate all of these changes that went through?
Yeah, again, great question. We were originally brought on just to redesign their existing facility. We had 4 weeks to turn that around because they have to keep producing meals. We pulled it off. And then we went into the big contract and the big project, and, nonprofits are another beast, if you will. You have to design within the budget that they've raised. We do now, obviously 12 years later or so, 10 years later, we have people that we work with that are professional fundraisers or marketing consultants. But at the time, we had a budget and we couldn't exceed that budget. So we went into trying to find a space that we could purchase and that we could design. We kept running into hurdles way before COVID was around. Between 2016 and 2019, like I said, we had 2 or 3 different sites that we looked at and did a full design on. At that time, the board asked them to bring an owner's rep on as part of the contract for some of the donors that had donated $2-3 million. They wanted an owner's rep, again, just like at Union, a role I didn't know existed. We interviewed a couple of them. The CEO kept bringing me in to meet with these guys to interview, and he finally turned to me at one point and said, "Why wouldn't you just do it? You know the project,
Nice.
you know our mission, you know what we need." And so I said, "Sure, let me do a little bit of research." And it really is a glorified project manager, which all of us consultants really are for our scope, right?
Right.
Normally, so we do about 7 or 8 schools a year in design, and we're hired under the architect. So there's 2 companies, SFG. We've got the management side, and then we've got the design. We still design under the scope of an architect, which is traditional, and they have their other consultants. And so we're very familiar with how that process works, delivering our specs and our drawings. But we also had this niche of figuring out and getting to the experience of managing everyone from the top down.
Yeah.
And so we took on that role and then began just kind of plugging away at who do we need to hire, who do we need to bring in, what architects are a best fit for us.
This facility went from approximately feeding 1,000 people to 1,000 meals a day to 6,000 meals a day once you've got it done. That's obviously a huge jump in number of meals per day. And what I love reading about this is you definitely think like a consultant in this area too, with all of your experience being brought back in again, almost full circle we've talked about so far. And that is, you designed everything with flow because you knew that getting through with volunteers and paid staff, 6,000 meals a day is not the easiest thing to get through in a kitchen. So designing this entire situation with the workflow specifically in mind, can you explain to us what your thought was and how you designed it step by step, sort of step meaning like what section, from delivery of food all the way to being put on the truck for delivery going out to be fed?
Yeah. I mean, again, as a consultant, us consultants, we live in that world. So that's kind of our section. And again, like I said earlier, under the architects, we're responsible for the food service portion of the work.
Right.
We're responsible for the equipment that we specify and the advice that we give, right? When we give a suggestion in the beginning concept phase through DD or CD phase, we are giving our expertise. We've done the work, we've done the research. We've gone and looked at new products and new equipment, and now we're basically managing our little scope of our world, if you will. We took that same approach with this, learning what they do as a chef. Again, it's easy for me to put my mind there. I can look at a drawing and I can go in there and I'm cooking in that drawing virtually in my mind. That helps me lay things out. But really the volume, the school helped. Obviously my experience with schools, because we were doing 18,000 meals a day at Union across all those districts. But the max we had output was probably 3,000 to 4,000 at one campus.
Yeah.
So we're looking at technology, right? How do we design something that we know would work, and again, not waste any steps? So we have a nice circular design from receiving through cold storage, unpacking, right there, ready to go. If it's a protein, we have an area that's designed, that's clean, where we can wash bulk proteins or rinse our chickens or whatever we need to do, or vegetable wash on the other side. So those are separate, but then flowing right up to the hot equipment. And then again, the technology, the combi ovens, whatever your favorite flavor is, Rationale, Alto Sham, those are workhorses. You have to convince the owner that the cost up front is worth it.
Right.
When you calculate, and again, a lot of these vendors now we have so much data that we can show, hey, look, this roll-in combi oven is going to save you X amount of hours because we can get 500 pounds of protein on there with one rack. That rack, when it's done, or when it's in, we can calculate it, we can track it, HACCP safety. Meals on Wheels deals with elderly, disabled physically or challenged. We can track what went in, when it went in, the temp that it came out at, but we're doing it all in one run. The whole rack comes out, goes into a blast chiller. That's a roll in. The buttons hit and it stops that cooking process. So it basically keeps that product from shrinking or from continuing to cook. Then it goes back into the packaging area. So all those little steps
Yeah.
are key, but also the equipment that you're putting in with those steps is as important, if not more.
Yeah.
The size of the kettle, what can the kettle do? How much labor does it take to get that protein with a sauce, with a starch or a carb or whatever your vegetable is? How
Yeah.
do we get all that back together into one line so we can package it?
Yeah.
And then the speed, right? We have to have, like Oliver does the speed sealing machines. We put those in there so that they can get everything down on one line, and then it's just boom, 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 boom. They're not, when they go to restock a sauce or something or a protein for those packages, they're not having to walk 20 yards
Yeah.
and come back, because that's that wasted 3 minutes that adds up over an 8-hour shift. And
Right.
now you're looking at, we're not producing where we should.
Now, the other thing, you didn't, let's get away from the kitchen a little bit or two. You were able to do some of the rest of the building too with your architecture part. So you also designed a welcoming lobby that had a see-through window so you could actually see the kitchen in progress or in action. Kind of what was your thought behind that design to kind of open it up? I mean, it's not a kitchen, there's a restaurant that people want to see. So what was the thought process of letting the kitchen be seen by everybody coming in the lobby of Meals on Wheels?
Yeah, again, I was blessed to have 7 years. I see it as a blessing because it helped, hone my skills.
Yeah.
But there's so much that you learn throughout the process, because the owner, as an owner's rep, we were brought in as a right hand. So we represent him or the CEO and his team. You learn the mission. And this was a marketing call that I made that was like, if we're going to keep raising money and we're going to do these events, at the time, we were having to rent the DoubleTree downtown, or we were having to rent spaces all over, costing $80,000 to put on a fundraiser. And they're maybe making 120,000. So, the delta of the net positive that they're making with 4 months worth of planning is $40,000. You're not going to sustain. Why don't we move all that into the new headquarters? And that's where, and the architects that actually were hired to do the project, Seltzer Schaefer, Narrate Design, now they've changed their name, did a fantastic job. Our role as owner's rep was to basically drive the owner's needs and vision and make sure that they're doing that. And they nailed it. I mean, the interiors are beautiful, but the window was huge, and I had to fight for that, because when you come into the organization, that beautiful banner that actually has recipients, those pictures are folks that actually are in the system that get meals from Meals on Wheels. You can see the people that they touch. And then when you look over, why not be able to see their main core mission, which is food and producing food, and giving that safety barrier with access control badges, so no one can just walk in, but you feel like you're getting to be a part of it. It's almost like a chef's table in a restaurant. You get to sit and you get to see the action happening, and it touches you, and you see, all right, well, it's not just back there is where they're making these meals. We're watching them make them right in front of us.
Right.
It also keeps the staff and the third-party food service management team on their toes.
Exactly.
It'll make you, not that they would, but it will make you second guess if something falls, or if you're going to grab that, that dirty tool or that dirty rag. It makes you keep your place and your station clean, because people are going to be coming through and looking. But the main goal for that design was marketing and to be able to sell what they do in the core operation. We did design half walls so that you could hide the apron down. That's usually where it gets nasty in the floors. But, from here up, you can see the stainless, and you can see the kettles and the ovens, and you can see the packaging. And that's all that really matters, is being able to see something.
So what I love about that is the donors that are coming in that are giving, whether it's $50 or $2 million, that donor that's coming in and seeing that now, they're also getting to see how big the organization is and how complicated this thing is. It's not just somebody cooking in a kitchen, putting together a meal and then putting it on a tray. This is why we need the money. This is why the fundraising has to take place. This is a big operation going on, not just some, small little restaurant that's putting out meals, which, no disrespect to the small restaurants, but they're not feeding 6,000 meals a day. So, what's that done for the community perception, and what has it done for the fundraising efforts now for Meals on Wheels in Tulsa?
Yeah, I mean, again, great points. You nailed it, right? It can't really be quantified yet because it's only been a couple years, but it's completely changed the look. In fact, we've already met with 3 other Meals on Wheels across the country, because they came and toured and they love everything about it. and they want to now retrofit or redesign their existing operations. But really, it just like in everything, we were locked in 2017 to this site that was off the highway. It was an old Borders bookstore, 3 stories. Everyone
Oh,
loved it. We loved it because we want more people to see our design. And there's 12 million impressions a year. So again, we hired a marketing firm. We went through, came up with fun logos and this awning. I mean, I could send you some photos. It was the spot. We got all the way down to construction documents with another firm, and the owner would not budge off $4 million sale. So we were not able to we could not make our $11.8 million budget work if we lose $4 million right off the bat buying the land. So we had to walk away. It was a very hard thing to do. And everybody was really depressed, because we thought that was the site. And then all of a sudden, real estate guy shows up 6 months later, and here's this new spot of land. It's right in the middle of Tulsa. It's got access to 4 highways. So from an operational standpoint, it was a no-brainer. And it ended up taking on a life of its own. And now it's actually getting as much visibility as the other site would have, if not more. Everyone's talking about it. The community sees it every day. Right. So it's making people be aware of their mission. And like you said, $10, $20, $1 million, every dollar counts. Right. And this is putting them in the forefront of Tulsa and in the minds of everyone driving by. And it's also increased their volunteer base, which is huge. Right. Because they have a paid staff making the meals and the admin, but they have to get them out to a massive county, right? This goes all the way over. Metro Tulsa is massive. So there's about 1 million folks that need these, that are in the metro area. That 1 million meals a year, someone has to take those because they deliver. They still hand deliver with these Canberra refrigerated ice boxes that we've gotten them. They hand deliver them to everybody's home. That's so amazing. They have to have people engaged in the community, and this has given them a sense of pride for what they're doing, but also a whole new base of 30, 40, and 50-year-olds who are like, hey, maybe it is time for me to get involved and do something.
Right. Exactly. Given your experience with this project and working with them for not only this one, but also you've done it more in the past, like you had said before you did the big one, worked with them before to ramp them up, to get them ready to go to this level now. What advice do you give to other food service consultants that are working on similar nonprofit or community-based initiatives?
That's a good one. Just be ready to be flexible. Like lemongrass, right? It bends really well, but it's very hard to cut and break. You've got to really flex and flow. It's going to change. Everything depends on, first of all, the mission, right? Get to know the mission really well. We went and volunteered the first year that we started so we could actually feel and see what it's like to go and deliver. What's a full day look like in that organization? It helps you as a chef and also as a designer to figure out how I'm going to go back and produce these, and how I'm going to design what I'm pitching them. You want to know that you have the knowledge behind it if you have an opportunity to, and then just be ready to shift. Right. Don't get too locked in one design. We all do. We see it and we love it and we're like, that's it. But the budget may change. A lot of these projects are started with gifts in kind, with promissory gifts from foundations. There's certain things you have to do to get those. And every now and then you will lose some dollars because you didn't do those or you didn't meet those criteria. And then you have to scrap and redesign. So be willing, if they can't afford 6 roll-in combi ovens, what's our next best setup, right? Is it a double stack? Does it not need to be a roll-in? And, if it's brand specific, what's another brand? Because that's what our job is to fly around the world and figure out what a solution is for value engineering. Just be ready to kind of flex and flow with that because it could change quite a bit.
Good advice. Good advice. Now, the one question I always like to ask consultants is the old, hindsight 2020 question. Put you on the spot a little bit. Now that you've seen it, it's in action and you've designed it and everything. It all looked great on paper and it all looked good going in. Is there anything you would have done differently now looking back that, you learned from it, or are you really happy with the way it is?
That's a tough one too. From a design standpoint, no, I mean, everything came out exactly how we wanted it to. Again, we were fortunate to have so much time, right? That I basically lived in this kitchen before dirt even moved. So I knew what I needed and what I wanted and what we were going to make happen. From a design standpoint and a consultancy, as a consultant, it turned out exactly how we wanted it to.
That's great.
From a project management standpoint and an owner's rep standpoint, yeah, I mean, there's always, communication is huge.
Right.
You have to have a great contractor. We were fortunate to have one. So that's something that I think I would probably put as much time into, is hiring the architects, interviewing them, and then hiring the right contractor to build it. As all consultants know, food service is very hard to build.
Right.
It takes a
Exactly.
lot of coordination. And then I think MEP probably would be the big thing that we would have done a little bit more time investigating on. It got real. It's just a big kitchen, a lot of plumbing, a lot of electrical. So coordination meetings, I think, would probably be one thing that we would have put a little bit more time into. Getting your electrical specs just right, and getting those to the actual contractor who's doing the electrical, who's doing the plumbing, making sure that the drawings coordinate and all that. Those are probably the one thing that we could have sharpened. But again, it's at 99.9% perfect, because we had so much time, and you don't always have the time, unfortunately. So
yeah, sometimes though time works against you, right? You keep looking at it going, oh, I could tweak this here, tweak this there. Tweak, you kind of start second guess, even though it looks good. So, it's great to have time, but it's also sometimes can be a detriment to have more time.
Oh yeah, we could be our own worst enemies.
Exactly.
Perfectionism.
Well, that's all the questions I've got for you. So before we let you go though, how can people find out more about you and SFG Consulting?
Our website, www.saltfoodgroup.com, or Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Salt Food Group, at Salt Food Group. And then actually we just launched a new one. Instagram is at SFG _consulting.
Well, Eli, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. To learn more about this project on Meals on Wheels in Tulsa, or to see the pictures and the blueprints, visit our website at fcsita.org. Here you can view our project showcase publications, view more podcasts featuring our consultant members, and learn about FCSI membership and how FCSI Consultant can help you in the future. Thank you for joining us for this edition of The Art of Culinary Spaces. We hope this conversation has sparked your creativity and inspired new ideas within the world of food service design and planning. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on all of our future podcasts. Stay tuned for our next episode when we explore another groundbreaking project and exceptional design from FCSI members that are transforming the culinary landscape.